Welcome, folks, to another episode of the Church Solutions Podcast. We will introduce our guest in just a moment or so. This is episode number 381, and Steve Lacy is with us today. As usual, Steve, how are you?
I'm doing great.
All right, good. Anything happening in the Steve Lacy world that we should know about?
No,
No?
I'm jumping into dabbling with AI stuff. So
AI stuff.
may see some AI stuff folded into streamingchurch.tv here
Yeah,
eventually.
AI stuff. Pretty exciting. Very interesting. We did a webinar actually earlier this month on Chat GPT and AI with Kenny Jong. And by the way, since before we start here, a couple things to let you know about here, just to take care of some business. We're doing webinars every month now, and we have a webinar coming up May 16th, and it is going to be on why you should consider a live software-based encoder like vMix. And we're going to have a guest from vMix on here. His name is Heath Barker. And so this will be, we're going to do this webinar May 16th. It's actually in the afternoon because Heath is down in Australia. And it's not a vMix sales webinar. It's just a webinar to inform you about live encoders and software encoders more specifically. Although we do have Heath from vMix on there. So he will share some expertise with us, and he'll share with us some of the vMix's features. So where do people sign up for that webinar, Steve Lacy?
They go to webinar.streamingchurch.tv.
Webinar.streamingchurch.tv, and you can see other webinars as well. And should we confuse people with that other domain?
You can. After the webinar, go to streamingchurch.tv/webinar.
There you go.
Watch recordings of
We've got other
webinars.
webinars, including that one that was Chat GPT. So
Yes.
the AI one. So you alluded to that. So yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff. Okay. So let's jump into our subject today. We're going to talk about mixing audio for live streaming. We've talked about some of this in the past, but we have an expert with us today, and his name is Clayton Gregory. Clayton hails
two first
from
names or two last names.
Yeah, there you go. You're from Birmingham. You're in Birmingham, Alabama, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
you've been working with churches for years when it comes to mixing audio. You have a degree. Have a degree somewhere, right? From in studio production and all that stuff, audio engineering. And a little side note here: nobody will get this. Nobody will understand what I'm about to say here. But every time I see your name, Clayton, I want to call you Clayton Moore. Does anybody know who Clayton?
I don't know
Moore?
that name.
Does anybody know who Clayton Moore is? Clayton Moore was the Lone Ranger back in the late 50s and the early 1960s.
Oh yeah.
Clayton Moore.
I know the show. My dad watched the show, but I didn't know.
Well,
I just know Lone Ranger and Tonto.
Exactly.
I know those names.
Yeah. So again, I'm showing my age, but Clayton Gregory is your name. So Clayton, how are you today?
Man, I'm good, man. I've just been wrapped up 3 or 4 mixes today, and sent that for approval. Typically, what I tell people what I do is pretty much the same as if I were to produce, mix, and master a live album. For this isn't under the purview of how I'm doing, but it just kind of took off. Sorry, but yeah, I just sent some mixes to some people to approve before we install the settings on their computer. So yeah, that's pretty much every day for me. Weather is kind of somewhat nice today, just a Wednesday trying to push through. You know what I mean?
All right.
So we were talking before we started recording, and you were talking about mixing live streaming. Do you have the ability to mix live streaming as it's streamed live, or is it all post mix?
The ability, yes. Well, so the answer to your question is yes. If there are a couple of interpretations to your question. A literal interpretation to your question would be: are my hands and ears, and am I engaged in literal real time during a church service mixing? And the answer to that question is typically no. But what it is that I do, it's actually kind of both post and live. We use a DAW like Studio One that we're going to interface with a digital mixer like an X32 or
So,
SQ, whichever just
so
has multi-channel use. I'm sorry, go ahead.
you threw a term out there that my son has
Yeah.
used that probably most
Uh-huh.
people don't understand. A
Uh-huh.
DAW.
Yeah. That's
What is a DAW?
digital audio workstation. That's just typically I like to avoid that techese term. I usually would just say recording and mixing software. So it's what I tell people who have no idea what that is that really it's a digital mixer, but inside a computer. You know what I'm saying? It's computerized software version of everything and more that's happening on your X32 or your digital live hardware mixer, with many other great things that a DAW might do that we really don't utilize for what I do. But yeah, it's just computerized mixing.
Okay. So back on the question of you said kind of yes and no, or what was the answer to if I'm streaming live and my church is streaming live right now, just as a elementary thing, we have house mix. So they have a guy that's got a board that's adjusting bass and all the things for the house. And then we have a board for the live stream, and it's a separate board, separate guy, separate kind of separate set of conditions. So
this is what your church does, Steve.
Yeah, this is my church.
Not every church does
not
this.
every church does this. Probably, yeah. Probably we're probably in the minority. I don't know, depending on the staff and size of your church, I guess. But so you're saying that that's a part I was trying to figure out is would you be able to help someone mix live if they're streaming live?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So really what we would do in really most places that are really trying to be at the tip of the spear with this, the first time I heard about it, this may be a little bit more than what you're asking, but Bethel Church in Redding, California, I heard one time that I heard through the grapevine that they actually mix live in real time through Pro Tools. If you know, Pro Tools is another digital audio workstation. And I was like, that's cool. I know how those work. Let me try that. You know what I'm saying? And I tried it. And really what people don't realize is that you can pass signal through a DAW in real time, just like you can a mixer. It's just in a computer. You know what I'm saying? So, and that is infinitely cheaper and infinitely better and gets infinitely better results than that second mixer for a variety of reasons, which I can go into as many as you would like. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. Plenty of churches. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know. You piqued my interest quite a bit because I'm like, how does that physically, technically work? So that I can see they would be able to send you a stream, and you're in Alabama, and you've got your Pro Tools open, and you're receiving the stream, and then you're mixing in Pro Tools, and then there's an output that needs to go back to them, right? Or does it go?
There are guys out there that do that.
Oh, really?
I don't know their names, but I've heard about it. But no, I'm not. I'm building the DAW setup remotely at their church. So my sales line is, I'm going to do the same thing as if I were to produce, mix, and master a live album for your church. Only the album is your service each week. And when you like the setting, when you like your master, quote unquote, I put that same DAW setting on your computer, and then that processes your inputs in real time live. And then we just route the output of the DAW where that needs to go.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much all there is to it. I mean, there's infinitely more to it than that, but that's the gist.
Yeah. Do you so I was misunderstanding how this is where that audio signal was going. It's never really going to Alabama. It's, if I'm a church in California, you're
that is a thing that you can do. I don't do that.
Yeah, I could see
that's just because then I'm limited to, you know, whatever I can do literally right now in the space-time continuum with my computer. Whereas what I do now, typically we're doing anywhere from 5 to 10 churches a Sunday. So, you know what I'm saying? Because we're just recording, we're uploading those files, we're capturing a service, a multi-channel recording, and then I'm going to load that on my end, mix it, master it, build the session, and then they get that session that goes back on their computer, and then we configure that and show them how essentially to operate that, and then we offer additional retaining services with maintenance and making mix adjustments as needed.
Mm-hmm. And this is primarily, or is it limited to the worship set? Or you mix the whole service?
No, like I said, this is we're duplicating everything happening inside their hardware digital mixer with a USB cable inside a computer. So all their inputs, all 32, 64, whatever, that's all going to be captured, dialed in the right way, just like you do it on the console. It's just in the computer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So for you to participate with the live stream, live, is they're going to need a DAW at their facility.
We provide that, but yes,
you do?
We provide a license of Studio One. Yeah, I'm a reseller for Waves, Studio One, most any software.
Oh, okay.
I have resell licenses for all that stuff. So we just that's all that's just included.
All right. Well,
which is really all that they need.
Yeah, that was my next question, because I sit next to a soundboard, but I've never operated one. At church, I'm doing more of the video stuff. So if I've got a DAW, do I need a soundboard, a physical soundboard at all, or can I just pipe everything into that computer and do everything on the computer? You
don't need the second mixer. It sounded like you said your church has a dedicated broadcast console. You don't need that second one, but you've got to have that head console. You do have to have that. Unless you have some type of modular system that doesn't have a physical console, which we're getting big time in the weeds here. But yes, to answer your question, you've got to have a console.
Oh, okay.
The one digital console, like I said, X32, M32. Most any current digital mixer does multi-channel audio USB interface. That's it. And we do what we do. Yeah.
So let me jump in here and ask just a couple simple questions here. What would you say are the top 2 or 3 mistakes that people make when it comes to mixing audio for live streaming?
I'll only get 3.
You can give me 5 if we go. Well, we've only got so much time here. Go ahead, keep going.
Of course. Okay. I'm going to start with probably the biggest one that I encounter, and that is there's this malicious, straight from Satan lie that is really still very alive and well in the production world, and that is stereo doesn't matter. That you don't have to be in stereo, you can run in mono. The one tiny, slightly valid, yet very disprovable point that is probably why it stayed alive is if you think about like a PA, like a live PA, and you think, wow, that left side is way over there, and then that right side is like way over there. You know what I'm saying? Experiencing a stereo image, it's less noticeable, and one person could erroneously think, well, I don't want the people on the left side of the sanctuary to only hear something that I pan left, or the right side, vice versa. You know what I'm saying? That problem creates a huge problem for your broadcast, because space and the sense of space and the sense of, I've got over here, and not just this, you know what I'm saying? That's everything. It's everything in your broadcast mix. So it's not uncommon that I get mono keyboard, which is just again right here. So a person sounds like they're playing like this, rather than you hear the left hand and you hear the right hand. You know, and a keyboard, that's the biggest instrument in a worship mix is the keyboard. So I get that. I get, you know, maybe only one overhead mic. So it's kind of like creating space to fill out the full spectrum. It's essential to really get any type of good. It's not just a live stream mix. It's really any mix. You know what I'm saying? And I think the breakdown is that if somebody heard a mono mix on the radio, that would stand out. But when people are listening to themselves, there's like this blind spot to really evaluating what that truly is. You know what I'm saying? Which is just a part of creating art. But yeah, that's kind of a big deal, is people not understanding, you know, hey, we probably need to get anything that could be in stereo. We need to get that in stereo. You know what I'm saying? That's one. Oh, go ahead.
I got a newbie question.
Yeah.
I never really thought about this too much, but my phone and my television, they're all, I mean, the phone has one tiny little speaker on it, right? But no, it's got multiple speakers on it. Okay.
Yeah,
and my
not
TV,
unless you have a really, really old phone and a really, really old TV.
oh, okay.
iPhones now, for a good many years, like the left side is on the top and the right side is on the bottom. So if you turn sideways, you hear both.
Oh,
You definitely hear both. And then TVs typically, although it's still not going to sound great, but most any TV I think that I've had in a while has some degree of stereo. Now that obviously, like, there's not a whole lot of sense of spatiality in something you would watch on TV, like a movie or, you know, or a sitcom or something that's really just a vocal and then but no, like it's there. Why'd you ask that? Exactly.
I was just because you know, some of our audience is watching on TVs and some of our audience is watching on phones and with just, you know, the speakers on them. Obviously when you plug in a headset or something to a phone, then you're getting a different experience. And I was as you were talking about mono versus stereo, I'm thinking, is my Netflix mono or is it stereo? Is it
that's probably gonna be the place that's gonna be least noticeable.
Okay.
It's probably gonna be least noticeable there. I would notice it. But your average everyday person, they're just gonna notice. Well, really, to be honest with you, a place like that is where you're gonna notice the most if a mix is bad. You know, that's gonna stand out the most on your inferior hi-fi, predominantly mid-range platforms. That you're really, really gonna notice that there. Especially on the phone speaker. Anywhere that you're not getting the full range of highs and lows, it's even more imperative to have a good sounding mix where kind of the excessive mid-range, you know, is getting addressed so that it's translating as best as possible to those less than stellar platforms. I'll even have some people who will tell me, like, man, mix sounded good on my headphones, but it sounded bad on my phone speaker. Fix that. Like, they literally want me to tune their mix for a phone speaker, which is extreme, but I get it.
All right, so we're running out of time here, and it's interesting to listen to two engineers go back and forth here. Steve's actually an engineer. He's not an audio engineer, but he's an engineer of some.
I'm interested in how things work.
Yeah. Well, and it's good. That's good stuff. But so the first mistake is you really,
that was just one, wasn't it?
Well, that was just one. So stereo, you should be mixing in stereo, right? Would that be the best way to say that? Okay. So what's the second mistake that people make?
I would probably have to say not knowing how to set gain properly, whether that be gain is way too low or it's way too high. Normally, the easiest way to go about that is setting gain is actually really easy. Is that you want to get a median level from your singer or guitar player or the drummer, and you want that level to be healthy green peeking into the yellow some, which is kind of ish in the middle of the meter. If you do that, you're good. But if it's going into the red and clipping at the red, very bad. Can't fix that in the mix. Can't fix that in the mix at all.
Right.
Let's see. Do I have a number 3? That yeah, honestly, if you get all of anything else that I would say would be like bad mic technique, which isn't exclusively a live stream audio thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Really, probably. I have another good one, and that's making sure that your bit rate is as high as possible in your video encoder. That
All
would
right,
be another one.
Let's talk a little bit about that because we'll probably push you back on that a little bit. So we have people, we're a company who does streaming video, and so we do have sometimes churches that will really stream video bit rate at a really high. I mean, it's like
320. 320 is the highest.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking audio.
320 audio. So you're saying 320 is the audio. Okay.
I'm talking about bit rate.
Okay. Rate of the audio.
Well, that's what I was going to get at. I thought, video, we're talking audio.
The audio bit rate within the video is what you're saying. Because we run into a lot of people.
Clarification.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you don't think 90 is very good or 128 is very good for audio?
Oh no, 190, 192. That's the bare minimum. Minimum. Facebook's going to dumb down whatever you do to that anyway. YouTube is a little higher. But rule of thumb, and I'm sure video is the same way, is that you want to send those platforms the highest that you possibly can. You know what I'm saying?
The audio.
And then after they dump on it, at least it's as good as it can be, which they're going to do.
If you don't have a good mix and that doesn't matter. It's useless, right? I mean, you can send a high bit rate, but it's like all it's going to sound is like, this is the garbage. So, all right. So mic technique, which I agree. So I used to do music years ago, and I agree with you totally. Mic technique is really, people don't understand microphones and how to sing into them, those kind of things. And then I find a lot of people just don't know their equipment very well. Have you run into that a lot? I mean,
I run into that probably. I run into that probably most every time, which really is kind of what has kind of given birth to my company, is that it's a waste of time badgering people about what they don't know, because most churches are probably in the sub 200 attendance area. And they can't afford a full-time media person to do all of the media, let alone just one. So really, most of the time we're working with a pastor or worship leader or volunteer, and they need help, and then they need to get back to doing whatever it is that is their main job. You know what I'm saying? Which is where we're really able to help a lot of people, because like I said, it's just, they don't have 10,000 hours in their lifetime to go devote to mixing audio. They got to preach. They got to pastor, or, what I'm saying? They got to sing, all that stuff. And it's just, there's a very toxic culture out there towards, and I won't name any names, towards resources and companies sort of similar to like what I do in the production realm, that really drill down on, well, you just got to learn how to do all of this. I'm like, well, that's just not an option on the table. They may fumble through it the best they can if they spent hours and weeks and months, but at the end of the day, that's just not what they're on this earth to do. You know what I'm saying? And for, a manageable fee, we're able to, steroid shot to the sternum, adrenaline shot, whatever, straight to like a good 80% of the best that they could possibly expect to be. And that's a very life-giving situation for me and my team to be able to do that for people. So.
Yeah. You mentioned something else that was a lack of overhead mics, and as another issue. And when I think overhead mics, I'm thinking choir mics that
or that too. I was thinking drum overheads.
Oh, okay.
Drum overheads. I'll try to keep that one brief, but really, so if you take the drum kit and you take, typically, if you're miking a drum kit properly, you should have about 8 mics: kick, snare, hi-hat, 2 or 3 toms, and overheads. The reason that the overheads are important is because you can't hide cymbals. You cannot get rid of them. Every microphone to some degree or another is going to pick up cymbals. And if you don't have the cymbals, and overheads are for the whole kit, not just cymbals, but that's what picks up the cymbals. So if you don't have the cymbals, i.e. overhead microphones, in the mix, you're just going to hear the cymbals bleeding into the tom mic or the snare mic or the kick mic, and that sounds horrible. So you have to put the cymbals in the mix sounding good so that it masks other microphones picking up the bleed of that sounding bad. And you can take that same analogy, we can zoom out, and we can apply that to the drums as a whole, because if you don't mic your drums properly, or if you don't mic your drums at all, your online audience only hears what microphones pick up, which means vocal microphones, pastor microphones, whatever. They're going to pick those drums up because they're in the room and they're the loudest thing in the room. You know what I'm saying? So the drums need to be in the mix sounding good. Otherwise, you will hear them sounding bad, and there's no way around that.
Yeah, but if you believe drums are of the devil, I mean, you shouldn't. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, no. Like, if you don't have a drum kit, and we work with people who don't have drums, you know what I'm saying? Then that's not a problem, obviously. Then they're just not there.
Hey,
I'm talking about.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Well, I was going to ask you, just a little bit off track, but I used to do music all the time, and a lot of people want to put like shields around the drums on the platform on the stage. You know what I mean? Plexiglass or whatever, trying to keep, because you're up there trying to do music and the drums are overriding you. What's your thoughts on that?
It will knock out a tiny amount of high end, like cymbals and stuff, but not really. Number one, they're hideous.
Right.
So what tiny benefit you gain from that is lost. So the smart sounding thing to say here is that that explains it all, and it's that air equals sound. If air's passing, sound is passing. So that's why you see drums completely enclosed, which if you have a loud drums problem, and most churches do, because a lot of church people don't like loudness. And honestly, generally speaking, most people are going to find that how a microphone hears a drum kit is more pleasing to hear than how your ear hears the drum kit. I mean, your ear is still hearing the microphone. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's what we do. We close them up, unless you're in a rare situation where you've got a big room and you've got somebody who is not heavy-handed. Sometimes that works, but for the most part, you got to spend that $2,000-3,000 on a good drum cage. No way around that.
Good. Yeah, good. All right, that answered my question, Steve.
Yeah.
It was always an issue. I used to lead music.
It's always going to be an issue.
It's always an issue.
Unless you're just in a bar and everybody's just wailing, playing rock and roll, and that's just the vibe,
Yeah.
Unless that's what you're doing, you're going to need a drum cage.
Yeah. All right. Most churches aren't in the bar, but there are some that are in the bar.
They're not.
There are some.
Yeah, there are. Some of them are out there.
Yeah, they are. All right. Okay. So we've got another minute or two here. So if I'm listening to this podcast and I'm going, oh, we need help, our church needs help, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, I prefer my website. I have a link. I think I sent that to you guys.
Yeah,
you want me to read? You want me to read that out to you?
Yeah, just tell us what it is, because
sure. So it's ClaytonMixes.com.
Okay.
And then that's going to take you to the homepage, which there's really next to nothing on. You're going to want to go to the live stream mix solutions tab, or ClaytonMixes.com/livestream-mix-solutions.
Okay.
And you can schedule a call there. I've gotten to the point. I just can't really just give my phone number out, because I would never get off phone. You know what I'm saying? So, and I've actually got a salesperson/assistant that takes sales calls for me. But all of that, there will be demos of how I do what I do on their churches that I've worked with. All of that, it's all there. Anything anybody could possibly want to know, short of me actually doing the work's all on that website.
So is the majority of your work, someone sends you a recorded live service? And
yeah, typically my team captures the recording, remote it into the computer, because that ask is too high for most people. So we do it all.
Oh,
the
really?
only thing
Okay.
the only thing they do is physically plug in the cable, and then we log into the computer and do the rest.
Oh, okay. What's the what's the turnaround time if I'm wanting you to do something and, I'm recording my service on Sunday and I'd like to get it out on Monday. Is that possible? What's the...
Not unforeseeable issues notwithstanding. Gotta throw that in there as always. Typically a full project life cycle for us is ideally if we record by Sunday, I get them something to listen to and approve by Monday or Tuesday. We schedule with a guy that works for me. His name is Max. He sets it up to run live, and then ideally 2 weeks tops, usually. Again, sometimes certain members are not there and they're like, oh, we have to record them too, and then we have to do that again. And, sometimes, think that you guys know things happen sometimes. But for the most part, we typically try to communicate a 2 Sunday turnaround.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty good. That's really fast. So are you available to do like free consultation?
I am, if you guys will forgive me for getting a little over the top and melodramatic, it depends on your definition of what that word means. Typically that word to me is a sales call. This is what we do. Yeah. I can't give anybody any kind of, like, let's say for example, they're just like, so you help these people, how can you help me? Really all I really need to know, usually I'll get them to send me a video and I'll spy some stuff out, look for some red flags like the drums aren't mic'd, you know what I'm saying, which sure. That mix would not be good no matter what, you know what I'm saying. I'm going to look for something like that. Other than that, I can't give anybody any type of high quality diagnosis until we've captured the files and I'm looking at them and I'm hearing things like, oh, that kick mic is a little too far away. Oh, that singer probably needs to project better, get closer to the mic. Hey, this guitar gain is too high, too low. You know what I'm saying? We have to do about 70% of the work to even get to that point. So if that's what you call a consultation, I would say then we don't do a free consultation. And we don't, honestly, like, I kind of stayed away from the word free at all because it just seems to attract.
We understand
stuff I don't want to deal with. So we have we have a phone conversation to talk about what we do and answer questions. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We will do that. I don't really call that a consultation though. That's not really giving value. It's just saying, here's what we do. I
get it. Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Good deal. All right. So we're out of time here. So folks, if you want to get a hold of Clayton, it's ClaytonMixes.com, right? Yeah. And you can always get a hold of us at streamingchurch.tv and we'll pass on your information to Clayton, or you just send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv. Hope that if you haven't yet subscribed to our podcast, you can just look for Church Solutions Podcast wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to us. Give us a rating if you like, and we're here to help you any way we can. We do streaming video, but we cover a lot of things involved in ministry stuff, as we are doing today. So Clayton, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, sir.
We really appreciate
it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Had a great time.
Right. Well, good deal. Good. I'm glad we didn't scare you away too much. So maybe you'll come back.
Very good.
All right. And Steve Lacy, thank you for your input.
It's great to be here. I'm learning
folks.
Something every time.
It is. It's always a good learning experience. And most of all, folks, thank you for listening or watching the Church Solutions Podcast. My name is Phil Thompson. Please take care of yourselves and each other. We'll catch you next time on another episode.